Even with raised beds, drainage issues in your yard can still impact your garden's success. If you've ever dealt with poor drainage or you're trying to prevent it, you know how frustrating it can be. When setting up raised beds, everything may look nice and level, but hidden drainage problems can surprise you. I learned this the hard way. Last year, I moved into this space right in the middle of the summer growing season, which completely disrupted my garden plans. Every year, my goal is to grow and preserve as much food as possible, and as a single mom, I didn't want to skip a chance at fall garden food, so I rushed to get my new garden set up in time. I had a few crops growing in the metal raised beds that I brought with me, but then just 2 months later, after moving in, Hurricane Helene hit, and that's when I discovered the hard way about my drainage issues. A foot of rain led to flooding, and while the house might have been spared if the sump pump hadn't failed during the power outage, there was still standing water back in the garden area. After consulting with grading professionals, I had the area regraded to improve water flow, but after another heavy rain left standing water in my garden, I decided to take the extra precautions and install French drains after doing some research. That rain, by the way, was around 3.5 inches, and that fell over a period of 2 days. So they were kind of intermittent downpours. If you've ever wondered how French drains work, or you need a solution for drainage issues in your yard, this video is for you because I'm going to show you all the details of what I've learned so far. I like to make videos about things that have gone wrong in my garden because I hope to help someone else who may be going through a similar situation and hopefully save them some time and frustration. I did hire landscape professionals to ensure that this was done correctly because honestly, I had no idea how a French drain worked, and plus digging a trench in the dense red clay by hand was out of the question for me because it's like trying to dig through concrete. I can dig with a little hole with a trowel in that soil, but anything more than that, forget about it. If you're considering a DIY French drain project, I would highly recommend getting a consultation with a local expert before starting your project. I have the cold or flu that's going around, so I'm trying to preserve my voice out here with my turmeric tea. So let's dive in and take a closer look at these French drains and see how they can help with drainage issues in the garden. So the first step is the plan. To ensure that water is directed away from your garden or your house or both, you're going to want to observe your yard after a heavy rain and take note of the low spots where water collects. From there, you can use a laser level or a string level to assess your slope and figure out the best drainage direction, because the goal is to direct the water toward a lower point than where the water is pooling after it rains. We plan to put the drains at the lowest points where water always collects, which is here by the patio and then in the middle. And that happens to be in the center of my portable greenhouse right now. Then we planned out where the drain pipes would go with the goal of directing the water away and toward a suitable runoff area. I'll talk about the slope in a few minutes. The second step is to make sure that you have all the materials you need, and fortunately the materials for a French drain aren't overly complicated or expensive, and they include crushed granite or limestone, 3/4 of an inch to 1.5 inches in size, which is ideal for draining because it won't compact over time like smaller gravel or sand can. A 4-inch perforated corrugated drain pipe wrapped in a sock to prevent clogging. Drainage fabric to line the trench, which is optional but recommended. That's one of the things that I would have added if I were to do this project all over again. It's just another layer of protection in addition to the sock to help prevent soil from clogging the drain. Catch basins. These collect the water that would have otherwise gathered in your low spots. An end cap or discharge emitter for the end of the pipe to release water at the drainage point. Otherwise, the tools you'll need are 1 to 1.5 inch screws and a screwdriver to attach the pipe to the catch basins, a utility knife to cut the pipe, shovels to dig the trench, and a mattock helps if you have compacted soil or clay like we do, and your level to measure your slope, a wheelbarrow for moving gravel and soil, and maybe a tamper to help compact soil if needed. I found everything I needed at our local hardware store. And the third step is the trench digging, which I think might possibly be the most difficult part of this whole project. When you dig your trench, you'll want to make sure that it runs downhill and towards a suitable runoff area. The standard slope for a French drain is 1% to 2%, meaning a 1-inch drop per 8 feet for a 1% slope and a 1-inch drop per 4 feet of pipe for a 2% slope. If your garden is flat, you might need to dig your trench deeper as you go along to maintain the slope. And the trench width should be at least 12 inches for good drainage efficiency and at least 12 inches deep or deeper depending on the slope needed. Step 4 is to prepare your pipe and gravel. Gravel is a critical component to a French drain because it helps with water flow, filtration, and structural stability. It creates void spaces that allow water to flow freely towards the perforated pipe. Without the gravel, soil could slow the water movement or even block drainage completely, so it acts as a filter. It also helps stabilize the trench and prevents pipe movement over time, and it helps keep the pipe from being crushed by soil or heavy loads on the soil surface. In clay soil, at least 4 inches of gravel surrounding the pipe is essential because water can sit for long periods in clay soil. So the gravel kind of disperses the water into the soil. The gravel is going to help prevent soil compaction over time, which can block water flow. This is also where the geotextile fabric comes in. When you set a pipe wrapped in a sock into the trench lined with gravel, it helps reduce sediment buildup in the pipe and extends the drain's effectiveness. The majority of the perforations on the pipe should be on the bottom so that water enters from the bottom while preventing sediment from settling inside the pipe. Step 5, the catch basins. These usually have holes on the sides for the pipes to go, and you just cut your pipe to the length that you need and then fit the ends into the holes. Using screws ensures a secure and durable connection over time. I've seen catch basin filter bags that you can just set them right into the catch basins, and I'm definitely going to consider adding those eventually because I know that with this being a high traffic area, there's going to be debris going into these boxes eventually. But those are something that can be added at any time. So at the end of the pipe, you'll attach your end cap or discharge emitter, which you can see here. It's like a little trap door that is pushed open by water pressure when it's flowing through the pipe, and then the water flows out and down. All right, next step. When the pipe is laid on top of the gravel layer in the bottom of the trench and attached to the catch basins, it's time to backfill the trench. There should be gravel surrounding the pipe on all sides, at least 4 inches deep. If you use the geotextile drain fabric, you'll fold it up and around the gravel like a burrito at this point. And finally, the last step, which is the most fun part, and that's landscaping. Finally, soil can go on top of the gravel and you'd never even know that anything happened. I decided to put mulch on top because these are the paths between my raised beds, but you can of course plant grass or plants or whatever you had in place prior to the project. I like the look of decorative gravel or river rock that could create like a dry creek bed look, which I did underneath one of my downspouts in one of my previous gardens. For now, I just surrounded the catch basins with large decorative gravel to help keep the mulch and other debris out. Actually, the most fun part was using the garden hose to test the drain system when everything was done, and it appeared to work beautifully. So that's the full breakdown of how we installed a French drain to improve drainage in the garden. After dealing with unexpected flooding and standing water, I knew I needed a long-term solution to protect my raised beds and growing space. Now with the combination of proper planning, the right materials, and a well-installed drainage system, I feel a lot more confident that my garden is going to stay productive even during heavy rains. If you're struggling with drainage issues, I highly recommend observing your yard after a storm, mapping out low spots, and considering a French drain to help direct excess water away. And remember, every yard is different, so if you're unsure, consulting a local expert to at least get their advice can save you a lot of time and effort in the long run. I'll be keeping an eye on how this system performs over the next few months, so be sure to subscribe if you want updates on how well it holds up. And if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, please, and share it with someone who might need it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.